Alright, let's see if my mic works like it should. Let's have a few seconds of the sound going around. Yes, there we go. Alright, maybe waiting for the... it's almost exactly 8 o'clock. Nice, or 6 GMT. I'm in Sweden, so it's not really the same thing. Anyway, cheers to, DOTS or something. Alright. Let's see here, where are we at? Last time we did a selection of... let's just play and see how it works, or the functionality we already have in place. So you can walk around, very primitive, and press tab, and we go into this RTS mode, and we can select guys, and they start walking at the point where you clicked instantly. So that's a little bit strange, and they keep away from each other, not perfectly, but we're gonna fix that. But you have something going on here. So the first thing we should do is fix a bug which I noticed when I time-stamped my old video. So let me just see here. Yeah, that sounds good. So first of all, this one, I don't know if people remember, but here is like the bucket index of the bucket where we are testing if people are around us or not. The unit registers themselves in a bucket, and then they can check at the end of it, am I alone in this bucket? If I'm not alone in this bucket, then maybe I should see if I collide with that person who is in the same bucket as me. And then you also test the right, left, up, down bucket and left, up. So you can try this square around your own bucket, and the bucket are grid points. So just I think actually I made some drawing of this, maybe not. Never mind. I don't think I did that. Anyway, there should be a plus here. That's it, because the left up and left down are on the left side, and then the right are on the right side, and they are +1 to the right in the indexing order, which goes left to right. So that's basically it. That was that bug. And then also we have a situation where let's see here if I can press play. We have a situation where the characters are almost jiggling a little bit, and we should I think I know where that is. Well, it's not going to be a problem in the end, but so if we let them come close to each other, we can see that they are, well, that wasn't really, it's alright, but I'm pretty sure there is one issue here. So let's see here. First of all, as you saw when I dragged something out, the first point that I drag from, that's the point everybody is automatically gonna go towards, which is not what we are looking for. So we should fix that. So that's where this comes in. So if we have somebody selected, if the unit is selected and we have a ground hit, we are moving towards that ground hit. Right click world position, that's the position in 3D which we are moving against, right? The ground hit more or less just says like, are we clicking on something which is above ground? So let's see here. Because what we're doing here is that we are moving the characters, and then we're making sure they are not colliding with each other. But this movement here is not sort of rolling over to this movement here. So if we are selected and we are colliding with somebody, these two lines will not work together, because this positional value is not really, let me show you here. So this avoid 3D, this direction, avoid 2D, whatever, there we have the direction. It looks for, from the point of view, the closest enemy, let's see here, yeah, there we go. our position up here, which we have already calculated right there. So when we have this position and then we modify essentially the same position, but this is still unmodified. So we need to not let's see here. We need to actually have something like this where we have the variable new position. It's gonna be pretty clear when I'm done with this, like that, and then we have the position like that. So now it's a little bit more cleaner. Plus we're gonna have to take this this position 2D of us and move that as well. But it's 2D, so I don't know. And this movement, let's see here, the new position, the comparison position, this position should be moved with the same value as this is or as this is moved. So when we are moving it, the value we compare to find if we are colliding with anything, that needs to be the just moved position. That's the point I'm trying to make. So let's do like this. Let's take the position 2D, which we calculated here, and then we do plus equals to new float 2 variable movement, like that. Maybe, yeah, this should be good. And then X and Z. Oops, not bad. So now as you can see, the position 2D that we are comparing to see who we are colliding with, or comparing with where we should move, that position is actually updated with the currently moved position. So if we move it over here, we should check with the proper moved position over here. That should be it. But anyway, now we should fix so we can actually right click somewhere and get them to move over there, because right now they just started to move as soon as I selected something, and that's not really what we are going for. So let me fix that. So we should detect the right click. So we have a selection UI thingy here, and we have the right click here. So it's just a normal loop detecting the right click and putting it inside of a vector 2. So let's see here where we use this right click value. We use that right here in that's where we were before. So we are picking out this right click and we are translating it to a world position. And then we are raycasting from that world position to some position really far up. That doesn't make sense. Shouldn't that be that we are raycasting from... Oh, no. It's at the actual ray. Right. So the ray starts somewhere. The ray starts from the screen and is raycasting straight down 1,000 units, or straight wherever the ray is pointed at. But the ray will always be pointed at from the point of view of the camera, which makes sense. But it's a little bit strange because this right click should not be filled in if we're just pressing the left button, right? So let's see here, debug log. Because right now, when I just select with this if statement, dragging, and we drag it over and we see whoever we select, the same thing makes this trigger, which doesn't make sense because I haven't clicked the right button, the right mouse button. See here. So let's clear and turn on all of them. So yeah, oh, I see. Never mind. It's because we have the 0, 0 point. So before we did anything, Right. So first of all, we need to fix it. So when we do like this, it doesn't use the 0 point like instantly, which it did before. That's not really good. Anyway, we'll fix that later. It should not use the 0 point. It should use the point where we clicked, and then we should also do so even if we deselect, they don't stop. So that's the two things we should do. So let's see here. I don't know if people are familiar with the question mark thing in C#, but it's really nice. So what we can do is something like this. So this is nice because this, and then this makes it so there's basically a hidden boolean behind this value that says like, is it set or not? So imagine having the vector2 being a class instead of a struct that is now. You know, the struct is just a value straight up. There's nothing more. But as a class is, you know, a reference value to somewhere, and that reference value can be null. And that is a good way of checking if something is or is not, right? But struct doesn't have the same thing because, you know, vector 0 is an uninitialized vector, but it's also 0 which is a completely valid point on the map. So by having this question mark, we introduce a variable which says, is it set or is it not set? A simple boolean, true or false. And by just doing this, we set it to like nothing, and then straight after, if we press anything, we set it to the proper one. So that means we will have one frame of right click being set, and the other frames will not be set. So if we go back to unit, you can see we have this here where we say we can convert from a normal vector 3 to vector 2. So if we do like this instead, if has value. So that's how you handle that thing. So you put in, there becomes an extra value because has value, which is a bool, which is essentially saying like, is it null or not? But null is not really the same thing, but sort of. And let's do like this, and then we'll press in value here, and so right click right now will only be this will only trigger this frame we are actually right clicking. And now we have this situation where ground hit and this are not initialized because they are done inside of the if statement. So what we can do here is that ground hit is not really relevant because we can just convert that to boolean, or I use a variable all the time, right clicked false, or maybe like this. That's a little bit more cleaner to read it, because then because we have a name on the boolean, we can sort of infer what is supposed to entail without right clicked. So it's a little bit more verbose and explicit what we mean. And then also before this we should have something called the right click world position, which is vector 3, I believe, right? No, float 3. New. Yeah, and we do like that, and that should be enough. And now right click. Now we should not put that straight into here, because this means that it will only do this if we have it selected, right? Which it should always move towards where we set it to move. It should just pick up new movement instructions when we press right click. So if right clicked, so we need something called maybe something like a target position in the actual unit data. So this is the data that says like this is the current state of the unit, or current data state, maybe. I don't know what the right phrasing would be, but float 3 target target position, right? So by doing it like that, we can go back here and we can then put in data dot target position equals to like that. Oh, it should be selected and right clicked. And I believe this is just an in right now, which is not really what we're looking for. We should just move this over here and ref instead. Might be a better way of doing this, but I think this is fine. So when we have selected it and we have the right clicked, that single frame, it will pick up this world right click world position and it will set it to target position. And then we don't need to use this one straight away here. We can do like that. And we can get rid of this actually. Then we more or less always gonna have a target, which is not true. They're gonna start up, just moving towards the target. Same problem as before. So we should have a boolean that says basically has target position. The question mark thing could be used here, or could be used in this situation, telling it if it has a valid target position or not. But Unity dots does not allow this type of variable inside of a iComponent data. So we need to make our own sort of custom boolean here to handle this. So let's do it like this, data, and then add true, and then so we pick up the right click if we are selected, and we say we have a target, and we set the target, and then next frame or whatever frame, as long as we have the target, we will move towards the target. That's it. So let's play that. And see if it works. I think so. It's not. So now we can select and we can press right click and they go. Right click and they go. So now, and now we have probably the issue we had before with them like going on the same entity. They don't really like to keep away from each other in a good way. I think that might be a lot of trial and error, so that might be a good thing for me to like try out when to prepare for like later, prepare for another stream. So, but what we need to do now is we need to make sure that they are walking on the map, because right now I think they are floating, and that's not really what I meant. So let's have them not float. Might be a nice thing. How did you learn dots? Tariq Larbawi. Sorry for butchering your name. That's a good question. So the answer is not simple, as learning dots is not simple. I think there's like if you were to put yourself on a range between a beginner and expert, there's like a point where if you're on the right side and not the right side, if you are good enough, you should probably go the route I did. If you're not good enough, or if you don't feel comfortable, it sounds so bad when I say it like that. If you don't feel that comfortable with Unity, you should not go that route. You should just wait for Unity to get their shit together with the documentation. But to answer your question, there's two phases to it, or three maybe. So the first one is just looking at different tutorials online, and like trying to find the latest one for the current state of dots, and going with that, and like just feeling your way through. And then there is actually some documentation. So if you are inside of here and you go to package manager, you can actually go to the documentation for like entities, the ECS system, and view documentation, and you will have quite a bit of documentation saying like this is how you use this stuff. So, but that's like, just Google documentation Unity dots or whatever, and you will find that. But this is not as good as the one for the old version of Unity, or the older type of Unity. So that's 2, and then the third one is, and this is the one which really makes you go to the next level with it, but it's really hard, and that's just look at the source code, because all of this stuff most of it are open source. So you know, this thing called system base here, which has a lot of features in it. There's a lot of stuff happening in system base. You can look at the whole source code. This is, you know, obviously not the whole source code, but if you Google for it, you can find it and you can look through it, and it's really informative to see. Oh, that's how it syncs together, the syncs point or whatever. Or there's so much detail which is, you know, not necessary to know, but if you really want to flex the muscles on ECS, and there is a lot to be gained, you should consider diving into the source code whenever you feel like there's something you don't really understand, because it's often quite explicitly coded by Unity. It's not that hard code to read. Skazam, welcome back. I have my whiskey as always. So that's how I learned code. I watched a few tutorials, not a lot, and then I used Unity documentation, and then I've read a lot of source code. And also, you know, I followed the forum, so there's a forum call here. Wrong button. So the data-oriented technology stack. And this one is pretty active. You can see most of this are from today that we're looking at right now. So there's a lot of stuff to be gained from there. Let's continue with our journey. So we have had them actually move properly, but we want them to sort of not fall into the ground, or not float, so they should move along with the ground. And right now I'm not really sure actually what the best way would be, because I think the player controller uses a collision. Yeah, let's see here. I think we are using some sort of physics body. Yeah, we're using a physics body. I wonder if we should use a physics body for all of these guys as well, or we should just raycast to see wherever they are. No, we should probably use a physics body for them. That should probably not be that tricky, not that hard to do. So we should do the same setup as the player has. Actually, that's a good idea. I just realized that. So we can take this physics body, we can copy it, and we can put it on the laserbot. Paste as new. Let's see where it is, and then we can maybe pull it down a little bit, and then we take the shape and we copy that and we put that also on the laserbot. Paste as new, and then we have some sort of thing here, which is nice. And maybe apply that. And then we had the situation where, you know, in traditional Unity you have the lock rotation, where you can lock the rotation in X and Y, so X and Z, so you only can rotate around, and that's, you know, the typical thing to make a character that is not the character controller based stuff. We don't have the character controller stuff in DOTS yet, so we have to make it ourselves, or make the part of it that we need. And that entails doing this. Inverse inertia 0. This is a multiplier saying, like, for the physics mass, when we induce some sort of rotational force, multiply with 0 for the x value, multiply with 0 for the z value, and multiply with 1 for the y value, which means that there's only going to be a y value left. So that means that all rotational forces will only affect the y value. That's it. So that's the same thing as, that's actually what's going on in the background when you press the lock rotation check marks in the normal Unity physics, or physics as it's actually called. So we should just do something like this, where we don't have player movement state here, because this will make it only run for the character or the entity that owns the player movement state, which is only the player, and then only the player will have this treatment. But if we take rotation and physics mass, and yeah, those two, that's actually like a lot of different, that's all the physical stuff in the scene. We can actually make tag for this. That's a good idea. Lock rotation xy xz. So we make a struct, and then we make like this. This is learning opportunity for new people to DOTS. So what I'm doing right now is that this system, which iterates over all entities that contains this stuff. Now I say like you should also have the lock rotation xz value. So everyone who owns this tag or this component data should also should run this, or like you need to own it to run this code. And what we can do then is just put that on test manager add component. So we put that on the player like that, and we put that on the unit like, let's do it like that. That is a little bit cleaner. So now both the unit and the player has the log xz thing, and yeah. Oh, and we have this finish tag right here, and we use that finish tag to make it not run twice on everybody. You can see here that we only run this on finish on stuff that does not have finish tag. And then we set that up, and then we add finish tag, which means that it won't run this again. That's pretty easy to get. But now we can flip the logic, because we have this instead. So if we remove finish tag, and then we do it like this, remove component. So now instead we have here where we say everybody who has lock rotation xz will run this code, and then we will remove this component, which means that they won't run this again, because then they don't have this one. So we just the practical result is identical. We just flipped the logic completely around. My English is failing me a bit. So that means that all of the laser bots should actually fall to the ground. I don't know if that's the case. We'll see. Maybe everything just explodes. Not fall to the ground, but keep to the ground. That was, oh well, you can see that actually is quite kind of alright, but this is not working. So we have a export. That's strange. Index out of range 42 is out of range of 2. Export physics system. That's annoying. We have some sort of a race condition or something that makes it just correct. Export physics world. Just to explain what we're looking at here. That's a system which you have the preparing, where they take all the entities with physics properties, and they squeeze them into a very 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 specific data representation, then they push it to the physics solver, the physics engine in layman terms, or the core of the physics engine, and then they solve it, pull colliders apart and make sure everything works, and they work on this very very specific data set, because a physics engine need to be like highly domain specific optimized, which means like it's like everything works for one purpose, and that's to make the physics engine works as fast as possible. and normal normal entity representation is not really the best way of doing it. So they convert it to this physics, to this data structure that actually makes a lot of sense for the physics engine. And then when they solve the physics, that frame, they run this export physics world, which takes this specific data set and converts it back into Unity entity system. So you know the physics velocity and the rotation and everything like that is set. So we are looking at probably something like this is probably a race condition of some sort, but I am actually really unsure of what this is. It's really strange to me. Maybe it's just in the beginning and we can like just screw it and don't care, and we can code a little bit more. I mean, it's not that bad, it's just 4, and we can still select them and we can still move them. So now when we look at them, they actually follow the properly, and then they fall together, which is, you know, not that great. Now when we have them physically based, we really don't need much of the avoidance system maybe, but I think we can find a good way of using that by making them move together more smoothly. But anyway, we have them like that, and we should probably make them so they don't collide with each other. So we have the collision filter here, and let's go to the edit. So in Unity Dots, there's in Unity Physics, the package, the Unity, the physics that it's based on the entity system. You have this physics category names, which is essentially the same thing as layers in game objects, but it's a specific layer set that is only for the Unity physics thingy. So we only have player on ground here, so let's add unit, and let's make it belong to unit and collide with unit. So it collides with itself. That's the point I'm trying to make. Okay, getting physics involved. I like to yes. Whew. Maybe we'll screw the physics and make something else without physics, because physics is really good and really bad, both at the same time. So you have been playing with Dots animation. Now that's been released in... Wow, that flies away. Let's just check if they are colliding with each other still. Now they are actually like... Oh, that's just because of lagging. So they are actually trying to keep from each other. This is, you know, not optimal, the way they are moving, but there's something. I mean, it's not easy to move around this type of stuff really fast without a lot of complicated logic, and this is not a lot of complicated logic. There's no complicated logic basically at all in this, so that's pretty alright. Animation, now that they have released the 0.6 update, that's a good question, but Bob Dacius, I don't know, maybe that's the way you say it. Let's see here in Packet Manager. So, oh, wait a minute, that's not even showing up here, right? I don't think it's as... No, you can't see animation, the animation package here, because you need to... It's so experimental that they are not even putting it here. You need to manually add it to the manifest file, which defines this. For those who are curious, that file is, you know, in the root of this project. You have packages, and then you have manifest.json, and if we move that over here, you can see this is all the stuff. So you can see here Unity Physics entities. This is what I'm using right now, You need to add another entry here to add animation. We actually have animation, that package, in our bigger project, but that's for a different reason. That's because the animation package comes with the hybrid system of it comes with where you can convert animation curve, the curve you can set in the inspector in normal Unity. You can convert that curve, the normal Unity animation curve, to a dots representation of it that is really fast to use inside of entities. And that's really the only thing we use that package for. I think you should be able to add it through the plus package. Git and Git will. Do you think that will actually add that? Maybe you're right. Nope. I think you need the whole thing. I don't. If Oh, there he goes. I was wrong. So new one. Oh, but that's from like a few days ago. I knew about that one. We don't need this, but we can import it. This doesn't matter much. So I haven't looked at it. I've looked at the samples, and the samples are really all over the place. I mean, I can see what they are trying to do with it, but it's very, very specific for specific type of things they're doing, and it's not very well organized to actually use, I think. It feels like just shooting yourself in the foot to use that so early, specifically in our case where we actually have the game is in production. So I haven't used it, and for this type of thing, maybe I would just hand animate it somehow. If we're gonna animate it, I'll probably won't animate a lot because that's just take a lot of time, and it's not really fun to look at. I don't think. Maybe, well, programming is not really fun to look at, I guess, but anyway. We should continue with the movement. So I wouldn't recommend the animation system unless you're trying to experiment with it. I haven't had a lot of positive things to say about it yet. We are surely going to move to it eventually, but right now I think it's way too early to look at that. It's like with the DOTS audio system. That is also just a complete disarray right now, I think. So we could move the guys and they collide with each other. Oh, and now of course we're getting some issues here. We let's just remove that for now. I'm gonna update all of this to the latest at some other point. I'm not. It doesn't really matter for these easy things that we are doing right now. Sorry for delaying the programming, but what we should do now is that we should. So now you can select stuff. You can walk around with them. I don't know. Originally, I thought it would be really cool to make this a Boyd system, like fish. But then I realized, we want to control them, and that's not really what Boyds do. Boyds just fly around in random patterns. I would like to have it moving somewhat randomly around, so you get some little more lifelike movement for them. But I'm not sure how to do that. I have to think about that solution. Maybe we should. I think we should make another type of unit, and then we should try to do type-specific selection, because I think that would be kind of fun. I don't know why this is not working as it should. What's wrong with this one? Too concurrent. Oh, it's converted my code. Then never mind. It's just the upgrade to the next version of animation upgraded my code to stuff that doesn't work with the old systems. All right. So we should make another type of dude, and we should spawn both of them. And then we should make so you can double click on one of the types and select only the type you double clicked on, or all of them, all of the ones in the same type. Because I think we can do that sort of automatically with some cool DOTS filtering, entity query filtering, and that would be a nice exercise. And also it's a nice feature to have in a DOTS game. Also, we should probably take the camera movement system and make it so we actually move around when we move the mouse to the edges. If there's any other questions, shoot. I am all ears. That's kind of fun actually when they pop. Probably my spawning system isn't really putting them properly. There we go. Yeah, that's nice. So now we can like select a few and then move them over like this. The camera is really fast. Maybe not that fast. Should be. Yeah, that's, ship it, RTS done. You can move units. Let's spawn another type. So we have the spawner, which spawns like a bunch of different units at one spot, like in this box, I think. Yes, in this box. So if we take this is just a debug spawner, so we don't really care if we are like making something weird out of it. So let's do array of them, objects to spawn, like that. And then we do a for loop. I don't know why I'm not using for each more often, but I don't know, weird habit. Like that, and the prefab later is then used in this. So this, this is a good situation to point something cool out or new stuff. So in Unity Dots, I don't think I have talked about this before, but so like inside of like spawn data, this is the data that defines exactly what we're trying to spawn, and it is inside of this of the ECS inside of our component data, because we want to be able to run it parallel in a bursted thing, so it's easier to get it inside of the. It's just syntaxly. I can't pronounce that. It's just easier considering how the code is structured in Dots. So what happens when we want to have multiple prefabs? That's the question. So if we just comment out that, so we get it to compile again, and then we do something like this, this will not fly. And if we just comment out that and try it still, now in Visual Studio it will compile, I think. But if we go here and we try to compile it, this will not accept it. I don't know why the compiler is not triggering properly right now. Maybe we need to press play to see the problem more clearly. Yeah, there we go. So here we go. So spawn data contains a field of entities array, which is neither primitive nor blittable. So that means that an C# array is more or less like that's a managed memory. That's not a value type. When you're creating this variable, that's a pointer to some place in the memory where there's a whole row of them, and that doesn't work inside of a component. So the way to do that is with something called a buffer element. So you can attach arrays of whatever you want to any entity. So the way you do that is you create a spawn data prefabs like that, and then you inherit from buffer element data. and then we can put this inside of here. So this now is, this struct is defining one single element in, or how a single element inside of this array will look. So it's not going to be a straight up array easy to access like a normal C# array. It's going to be a little bit trickier with the syntax to make this to the way it's made inside of dots. So in this convert function then we can do something like this: variable prefab buffer equals dest manager, which is the entity manager, and then add buffer, and then we type in this type, we define this as this type, and then we put in the debug spawner, the one who's going to own it. So now we declared so that the debug spawner, the entity, owns a buffer that contains this type of element. Right now it doesn't contain anything, but if we take this buffer, this buffer handle of sorts, and then we go inside here and we go add, and this is interesting because if you just do like, this is an entity, and this prefab object is an entity, and I said it was supposed to be entities inside. So if we do like this won't work right now. Just to point out that issue, so people don't get confused if they try it by themselves. And the reason is that this buffer doesn't contain this entity. It contains this struct, which contains this entity in itself. So if we do like this, new prefab. So for those who hasn't initialized a struct like this, this is just like doing I think it's just a normal struct initialization, just in one line, for those who are confused. You can create the struct however you want, but the point is that we create this element, this type, and then we populate it with this prefab. So now that means that we have this buffer associated with this entity, and then we can do this. So right here we're trying to instantiate this prefab, and we want to access this buffer and then select a random prefab from the buffer to make it spawn randomly different prefabs depending on whichever we put into the list. So we do like this: dynamic buffer prefabs, like that. So now we have a dynamic buffer in like this, means that we can just read from this buffer however we wish. We cannot change it, but you can just as well move it over to the beginning and mark it as ref, and we can actually shuffle around element, remove element, and add elements. The reason why I swapped places is because ref needs to be at the start of this parameter declaration. So as we can go back, because we are not interested in changing anything, but just so you know, you can actually change what's inside of this. So now we have an interesting situation here, because we could do something like this. Zero prefab. And also this is you can see how I access one of the elements, and it says like no, and that's because we are actually accessing this, not this. So we need to put dot prefab. So that's it's not really hard to figure out when you look at it and you take your time with it, but it's a little bit weird because all of the elements, all of the arrays inside of, or these buffers inside of ECS, they are like typed one step into everything, so you always like put in an extra dot more or less, which is it's a little bit annoying. But right now what we are doing here is that we are, making a big array of all the entities we want to spawn. So like, I don't know, maybe 1,000. I think that's the value we have right now. And then we have this array of 1,000 uninitialized entities. And then this instantiate, this will create 1,000 of this one and fill the array with copies of this prefab. And the reason why we do that is because entities receiving this array of native array, that instantiate function will instantiate these entities, these 1,000 entities, really fast. We can't write the code that does this faster probably. So we let Unity's own instantiation code fill this array. We could make the for loop ourselves and do like this instead. This does the exact same thing. It's just that we are counting and instantiating every single one, but this will be several times slower than letting Unity's own instantiate function do all of the instantiate at the same time. So how do we do that when we have several different prefabs we want to make? I don't really have a good answer to that, but we're gonna figure it out pretty fast, I think. So this count doesn't really cut it anymore because we have several different prefabs, and like it's still a debug. You know what? It's still a debug spawner, so we're not interested in making this like the perfect final thing, not even remotely. But one way we could make it is, make the public count, make the count variable inside of this, so every prefab that we want to instantiate have its associated count. And yeah, you know what? That's what we're gonna make right now. It's not gonna make a lot of sense gameplay wise, but just to make it happen here, it's probably quite alright. So now we can do it like this, for, and then we go through all of these. So this buffer still has the length property and everything, and we can loop through this whole more or less this whole array, even though it's not called array. And if we just pick out this stuff and put it inside of here, and then we do this I instead, so we pick out the and then let's rename that K instead, like that. I think that's enough, right? The reason why I use K instead of L is because L and I is quite similar when you're using small fonts, and K is a little bit easier to distinguish. That's the same reason I don't use exclamation mark anywhere, like flip a boolean, because the exclamation mark can be, it's easy to miss if you're reading through a code fast. And then we can do this. So we have this count, which we moved over from being a global variable for the whole thing to being associated with every prefab. Now we just need to put in this count with all of the, so this doesn't apply anymore, and this applies instead. So count equals to whatever. Let's just say 1,000 for now. Or, what? Let's do like this instead. Class spawn data. That needs to be public, I realize now. Public serializable. And then we do like this, to spawn object to spawn, and then we can do public int count. I think people understand what I'm going with this. Object to spawn, and then we have the count like that. I don't know why this is not working as it should be. What am I missing? Random does not contain a... Oh, we have two different things called spawn data. Prefab setup. I don't know. Prefab data. That's a good name. That's it. So now we loop through our array, normal array, and we put them inside the new cool array, and then we read all of them, and we need to specify our mathematic random, and then we read through the prefab array and we spawn them appropriately. So that should be, could also make it a weight generally more robust and allow you to control the total number in a single other variable. That's a really good point, Kazam. That's sort of what I meant when I said like this debug spawner will not be the final thing. I wanna build some little thing where you can select it like a building and then press on the thing you want to build or something like that, or maybe something very simple but still like that you as the player select what you want to spawn, right? So this is just to try to move around the characters. To spawn stuff so that you can move around. That's the point of this. So if we go back here, I think it will compile just fine. And then we go to the spawner. We have this list instead, and we can fill it in with the old thing. Just make sure we're using the right one. So, and then maybe, I don't know, let's just take 200 something, and then we should make another one. So let's make a copy of the laser bot and make it the flame bot. New bot incoming, flame bot, and it should be more or less the same. So let's make that a new one, original prefab, and so my shader compiler is hard at work. You can see here. I just want to swap out the stuff here. Let's do it like this. Let's dig into the actual models and let's put the flame bot here. And laser, yeah. We can actually unpack this. I don't think there's anything on the root object. No, unpack this like is it the same thing? Yes. So we should just move laserbot health dot material. We should rename that to bot because they all will have the same health dot. I don't know what that was all about, but never mind. And then let's just take this thing and move that over here and remove all of these and move them inside over here. Let's just make sure everything is in the center like that. And voila, we have our flame bot. This guy. So we have the flame bot and we have the laser bot. Not a ton of difference, but you have different arms and different backside, so that's nice. So let's we can deactivate them for now, and let's go back to the spawner and let's pull in the flame bot as the second spawning thing and 200 of them, and let's press. Oh, they're gonna fly around again. Yeah, press play, see what happens. Who cares? It's fun to see some glitch out sometimes. That was not okay. Okay, so we have something interesting here we need to fix. Attempted to access chunk buffer spawn data prefab which which has been invalidated by a structural change. Ooh, this is this also one of those very like annoying things with how dots work. I think I know what this is. Let's just make sure I'm 39. Yes. So this is very strange. So what happens is you are not allowed to add stuff to this buffer if the structure is invalidated. And that means that if something is changed inside of the entity, or I'm not sure exactly what it, which things can be changed and cannot be changed, but there's a bunch of stuff associated with this entity, and probably with other stuff, other systems as well, where if you change it, you need to like refresh and reinitialize this buffer to be able to put in the next one, which would mean that we should do something like this: get buffer, like that. So after each time that we add it, after each time we add a new one, we pick out the reference again, which like validates the reference again. But this is weird. This is really strange. I was so confused by this. I think this works, but the point is that we can just flip this around to make it a lot easier. So what we do is that we do it like this instead. Add buffer dot add range is something we can have, and that grabs a native array with this element inside. So we can I'm just gonna pick out the name here, which I had. So variable new native array, like that, and the count is obviously the count of the things we are going to use, and then we can use the temp job, and then we do like this and like that, and add this range. So just to make sure here, if somebody have some input or some new information for me to take part in about how to do this properly, or if this is stupid, please let me know. This is the way I found it to be easiest. So you don't pick with this. Can you preset the size of the buffer? Yeah, you probably can. I don't think, but in this case, as you can see, it doesn't really matter, because now when we are adding, yeah, exactly. Now when we are adding directly to an array, we already have the exact number of them, and we just put them inside of it straight away into the array, and then we there's probably some copying going on behind this, so I think we should dispose of this, because this buffer will probably contain a perfect copy of this array, but not the array itself. So we should just dispose of it afterwards. But this is the way you can do it without having to like re-get the buffer handle every single time you modify it. So this should probably work. I had a headache more or less for a few hours the first time I tried to program with the damn buffer. So yeah, when you do something with it, it's like everything goes wrong. Oh, wait a minute. What's that all about? Unit, add component. Oh, right. The flamebot, he is missing his health indicator because, you know, I made a copy of the thing. Skalsam, yeah, let's try that. Read his comment if, yeah, we should try that actually. That did not work at all. That's interesting. We can try what Skalsam pointed out. That might be actually an even better way of doing it. So this is I'm learning something nice. add buffer like that, and then we set I think the answer is no. I might be wrong somewhere here. Let's look at that. So we're looking at the not sure, but it seems intuitive. So we're looking at how the dynamic buffer works, and there's there's an ensure capacity, but that's not the same thing at length, obviously. But there doesn't seem to be any like make it big. Resize uninitiated. I don't know. Sam, if you have any input on this, please let me know. I don't remember what resize uninitiated does. I think I use it somewhere in my bigger project. We can see here if I'm doing something. Nope, never mind. Yeah, I'm not using it. So yeah, so the point was to like make the whole buffer really big from the beginning, and then maybe pick it out once more if the handle is invalid, and then just when you already have the big buffer, then you can slot everything in. But as it stands right now, it doesn't look like it works either, because there's no such thing as making it big from the beginning. You can ensure capacity, but capacity is the underlying size of the whole data, not the length of it. So the length will always be less than the capacity, and the capacity will always double whenever you run out of capacity. But it's not the same thing. Did I miss resize? Oh, you mean that one? Let's try it. Why not? Let's see what happens. So let's comment out that one, or you know what? We can do it. No. Just to make it easy to flip between. Oh yeah, this actually, you know what? This should be it, because now we're adding the buffer, and then we are initializing it with a big. Yeah, I think you might be right on this one actually. And then we're putting it. So we initialize it and we make it big, and then we put in all this empty space which we made big here, or which we initialized it here. So that might be it. That might be the way to do it actually. I mean, there's nothing wrong with making the array first. Probably memory wise not the best thing though. Archetype. No? Oh. Probably if we. So it complained about the buffer handle being invalidated again because we touched it. This line of code here touched it, and then we're trying to do something with it. So if we just get it once more directly after we touched it, maybe that will work. It's so strange with this thing which invalidates the whole thing, and you need to pick it out again to get the valid one. I might have misunderstood some of how that should work and what the purpose of it is, but I don't know. I was result driven when I wrote the code. Has been invalidated by it won't go away. This just nope, it doesn't want. So this line of code probably invalidates the handle once more. So if we do something like this where we pick it out every frame again, or every loop again, maybe it will work better. But this is not the way I want it to look in the end, but we can try it. So if we press play on that one. No, invalidated by the structural change. That's so weird. Wrong. There we go. So this one just doesn't work. It's strange. I think this thing I did first is the best way to do it right now, but you know, it's not like I'm certain of anything. Man, I forget to stop this every time. Let's see here. It still doesn't spawn anything, but you know, we'll get to that. So there we go. So now we didn't have any errors. We have some big leak. Let's just fix it. So we see here it's like you have a leak. Who knows where? If you turn on full stack trace, we will show you where. But the game will be laggy as hell. So that's more or less why this is showing up like this. So if we go to the first one and we look here, we have a screen position set buffer, which we are not handling because we are not running this code. I'm confused actually. Maybe that will do it better. It's complaining that like when a new buffer comes in here and overwrites the old one, it's like, oh, you did not dispose of the last one properly, so now that memory is lost. Well, it's lost if we didn't have the safety checks that you don't want to have it in the end. So I'm just doing this check to see if there's anything here, dispose of it straight away, because for some reason this code doesn't run properly right now. It doesn't dispose of it in the end of the frame for some reason, or in the end of this system. Anyway, let's get on with it. So now we don't have a memory leak, so that's good. But we don't have any characters on the screen, so that's bad. Let's reduce the camera speed a little bit, maybe half it or something. That sounds like a good idea. Let's see here. Let's look at the spawner and see if there's something wrong here. This count variable should actually not be here anymore. So the count right here, let's not care about that one. Let's do it like this. And so another opportunity to learn about the debugging tools for DOTS. So let's pause it straight away and let's see what this debug spawner has to offer, or has. So if we take a look at the spawner, we can see it has the spawn data prefabs, and it has the count and everything, but it doesn't. Yeah, it has the prefab. I'm sorry, my bad. It has the spawn data prefabs, and it has proper counts, but it doesn't have the spawn data at all. So that's weird. So that means that we aren't this spawn data with the rest of the data, with the where it's supposed to be spawned. That's not there anymore. Where did we put that? Oh, okay, that's interesting. So we create a new entity to have this spawn data on for some reason. I don't know why we did that. There must be some old code that for some reason I wrote. So, you know, when we add the buffer to this entity, we need to also add the spawn data to the same entity for this for each loop to trigger, because the entity needs to have both of them. And before, we created a new random game object, a new random entity for that. Don't ask me why I had that in place, but yeah. Now we should have two different units on the screen. Maybe. Yeah. How about that? Okay, so what we're looking at here is probably, this is probably the physics engine, which, as I alluded to earlier, we had some sort of a bug in, but it's doing this. Oh. Ha! Wow. It's pretty impressive that this actually is, workable. What do you think? Should we make this into a feature? I don't really know what to say. This is actually pretty fun. I think I know why it is. That's a nice stack. Yeah, yeah. May I say Stack Overflow? No, I shouldn't even smile right now. That was the stupidest joke ever. Wow. So let's look at, because the reason why this is happening is because we have this error that's showing up every time, which is the same error as before. We have done something with the buffer of the buffer of the different prefabs we want to spawn. We made some changes to that buffer, and then we try to do something with it, and that means that it will like break, and then so I'm just talking from my memory here, and then the code which makes sure that the spawn thing only runs for one frame, that code does not get executed. So we are not making sure the spawn code is only run for one frame. So the spawn code is run forever for every single frame. And the problem is on row 128. So let's take a look at that. 128. So it's here. What? I am really, really confused actually. Prefab.length, which has been invalidated by a structural change. I don't actually know why this is. Attempting to access this thing. Oh, I see. Do you have a dynamic buffer per unit to spawn instead of one dynamic per unit to spawn? Well, that would make the buffer necessary. If we would have one for each prefab, then we don't need a buffer because there's only one of them in each entity. So we could spawn one entity for each. That's a good point actually. But I know why this is, and like, since I don't have a firm direction for where the code is heading or what feature should work how, well, I'm just making up as we go, and I know why this is wrong, why this doesn't work. So it's the same problem as before. The problem is these both lines of code, they make this handle invalid. So even if the handle comes like this straight from the source and it's locked and everything, even if that's the case, it still gets invalidated whenever you call the entity manager and poke at something. It's like, oh, the memory might have changed, you need to pick out the reference, a new reference again to the updated version. So there's two ways we can do this. One way is to pick out this every frame, and the way you would do that, it would be something like, let me code that real quick so you can see how that could look, just for fun. So if we just don't care about this prefab thing, we can make a for get prefabs get buffer, I think, get buffer from entity, like that. Prefabs like that. Get component. No, this is not the correct one. Get component. No, that's not possible either. We only have this thing here, and this needs to be outside of the entity. This needs to be like this. Buffers, just to show, like that. And then we do like this. Entity. That's a valid way of doing it. And we can probably pick it out every frame like this, or every time like this. But a better way of doing it, I think, because then you, like I said, you're picking out from the source every time you do it for a new once more. But the better way of doing this is just make a copy of this straight away, because we don't really care about the real data behind, or we do, but we can just make our own copy, because we like it won't change, but so just let us keep our copy of it. So we can do variable copy, and then as maybe 2 native array like that, and temp, and then that's it. That should probably work, actually. Is there anything? Do you have a dynamic per unit dynamic buffer per unit to spawn instead of one dynamic buffer? Yeah, that was the same thing as before. So it's a pretty interesting way of doing this. Like, we are actually engineering ourselves around problems that should not really have to solve like this, but you know, we're programming it a little bit naively to, yeah. That's much better. Like, we still have the physics bug, which, you know, happens first, but it doesn't really matter. And they are vibrating, but that's just... So, and if we look here, you can see we have 2 different, one here and one here, right? There's the 2 different ones. So, how about that? Dynamic buffers. So, if you are the thing to take away is that this is a strange situation, because we want to use this instantiate which takes this native array of entities to let it instantiate everything fast for us. So we need to access this version of instantiate, which is inside of entity manager, which itself needs this with structural changes to be able to access inside of this loop, and by doing this call straight to this entity manager, that's what makes this dynamic buffer just spaz out. As soon as we touch this entity manager, this reference becomes invalid, like that. But if you don't use entity manager, and trust me, like, we could do this with a command buffer. It's just that it would be slower, and my point wouldn't be as easily proven, or you know, it will be slower. That's, you know, that's not good. But we could do this, both of these things with a command buffer. You know, delay the execution of the instantiation and the set component data, and then we could actually, you know, play around with this dynamic buffer however we want inside of this loop, because we won't touch the entity manager, and thus the dynamic buffer won't be invalidated. So that's the thing to take away. Let's see if we can make some sort of double click to select everything that we want to select. First of all, we should make 2 new scripts. So let's create one called flame bot, and then one other called laser bot, like that. Now we can remove this stuff and public struct iComponent data, like that. For now, probably not going to be a ton of stuff inside of it. We don't have any behaviors for the flamebot or the laserbot, so there's nothing to put it. Both of them should work like a normal unit right now. And let's detect a double click, because now, first of all, we should just we can do like another thing to teach or to learn about. Generate authoring component. So let's put that on both of these. What this will do is that will automatically create this thing. This thing where it lets us fill in the component data to a specific game object that gets converted to the entity. So it basically creates our convert function for us, and then just copies in all of the different things here. So if I put like public bool tests right here and let that compile, you will see it. Really good feature actually, but I haven't used it so far because it's not. It's good to know about this structure first and then use the generate authoring component, I think. So if we go into the flamebot or laserbot first, apparently. Laserbot, you see there's a laserbot thing here, and it's named authoring, and it has the test on it. So this whole sort of mono behavior, it is a mono behavior. It is like normal. It's just that it is generated from this code, right? So, and we can remove the test, and it will work just as just remove the test variable straight up. There's not much more to it. So laserbot authoring and normal, and then let's add one to the flamebot. And the reason why I do this is because then we have two different entity component tags on each one of the types, so we can differentiate between them. So let's jump back. Let's make sure this is like it should be. Yes, both look nice. Let's detect a double click. So we have this dragging, we have the left button. I don't really know if there's a straightforward way of detecting a double click. Unless you just detect it by yourself. Let's see here. Unity detect double click. Detect double click. It's not like I don't know how to code it, I'm just on. So your basic, somebody wrote something here that detects it, and then your basic concept for a double click is in the right direction. However, when using UI, you should use the UI functions, not the standard input classes. In this case, you should make a script. Okay, so they are talking, he is doing something with UI, and he just wants him to use the UI type of code. We are not using UI, so there is something called click count. Well, this is UI code, pointer down. That doesn't matter for us. So we'll just code it straight up. So we can have private float last click time, something like that. And let's have a get mouse button up, and then last click time equals to time, something like that. And then if let's see here. So we wanted just to take the the time between the last time and right now. So if we can make some public float double click time or something, I don't know. And then we want to go from we want to take the new one minus the last one, and if that value is less than double click time, then we probably have a double click here. Click unity debug.log. I don't know why I did it comment, but let's leave it there for fun. Like that. Let's see if that works. Welcome to how to code double click. My disk is empty. Need to fix that. Oh, we need a... Let's do it like that. We need to actually... canvas, dragging box, double click time. I don't know what that double click time would be. Maybe like... click click. Maybe like 0.3 or something? Maybe? I have no idea how long a double click normally is. But that should probably do it. It's not like we have a huge... So that does not work. Interesting. All right. That did not work at all. And if we have it like 10, oh, I did something wrong. Let's just have a look at what that looks like when we detect. So I thought I would look really nice here, writing double click detection in like a minute and working at the first try. So it doesn't even detect my damn mouse click. What the hell? Mouse button up. What? Anybody in the chat can see what am I doing? Why is this not getting detected? Down, up. Huh? Oh, I see. Skalsam, exactly. Great minds think alike. I don't know. I'm not. No. Reverse it. You think you came up with it with the delay, so you were first. You get the honor. Skalsam solved it. Yeah, Dragon Ball, obviously. Obviously. Almost first time. There we go. Double click, double click. Works. I mean, like I said, it's not really... oh, it's actually thinks it still has the... but yeah, that's good enough. We can adjust that if it feels strange in the end. So we should do like this again. Do double click like that, and so this is in the selection code. We should do some fancy stuff with the double click. So that's over at the wrong button. Where am I going? Am I right click? Here we go. Here we have the right click. So let's do something like it's more or less a copy of this. Double click, because you know it's more or less the same thing as a right click with different parameters. Double click, and then like this, and then double, like that. Bam. This is a great recipe for bugs. Copying something old and then swapping out and then forgetting half of it. Good recipe for bugs. Trust me. Spent many a night digging for the wrong copied string or line. But that looks like it's probably alright. Yeah. Ground. I don't know why we use the ground hit. Well, I mean, never mind. We might need it someday if we want to validate that we are actually pushing on the ground. So let's do it like this. If double click, we can make an else statement, because if we are selected or something happens with the selection, we will not care about the right click or double click. What helps you, CADfoot? What helps you stay motivated to work on the project? On this project, for me, it's just I want to see this game work, and also like my I will take this quickly and then continue programming. So I want to see the game work, and if you haven't checked out the design document, I think it's a pretty good game. I think it's going to take a lot longer time than I originally thought, but that's, you know, every project ever takes longer than you thought. But I want to see it to the end. And also, like, I've had a few people actually tell me, like, there's some I tell helpful stuff, and before I started this, I told my colleague, like, if one person gets some use out of this and learns a little bit of ECS and jumps into ECS, then it's worth it. It's not like, I don't feel like I'm taking time for something else. I'm just having fun and teaching stuff, and hopefully even getting something taught to me. And Skalsam is probably the number one person who has pointed stuff out to me that helped me progress. So it's a good exchange, and just it's enjoyable, even though it's quite exhausting to think twice as fast with chat and thinking about the problem at the same time. But it's fine. It's fine for 2 hours, and it's fun for 2 hours. So double click. I hope that answered the question. Double click. So we're not selecting anything, and we just double clicked, and we have the position of the world hit. So we can calculate if maybe we should just try to hit and see who we hit. That should probably be the thing we want to do. So we should not care about the double click inside of the selection job, because the selection job is for selecting. This code should not be run for everybody, and I'm going to show you why. So let's maybe move this behind this. So remember, right now this is scheduled parallel. That means that when we are coming here, when we are calling this for each and then scheduling it and then running, by this point, when this is executed, this has still not executed, because it's a job and it gets scheduled and then it gets executed when the job system determines its time. It's time. It's time for it. So we can just pull this out here, and this will still be, you know, a scheduled job waiting to happen, but it will be separate. They won't really care about each other, hopefully. So we should just raycast and see who we hit. That should be the point of it. because right now we're raycasting against the ground, and that's not really what we are after. We are after raycasting towards the units. So let's see if we can pull that in, the units. There's a nice way of doing this. Let's see here. There's something called Unity. This is actually not something I haven't used that much. Coalition. There's something where you can, the normal layer mask. There's a similar thing in ECS, because otherwise there's just two integers which are bitmaps for the layers, and you need to like manually manage them, and it's really annoying. So the better way to do this is with the physics tag. Physics category name. There we go. And it was inside of the authoring, so I was on the right track. So unit tag, like that, and then we can actually make a new thing here that we can call public collision filter, and then unit filter, filter, like that. And this is almost ugly. Well, some people will probably say it's ugly. Yes, that's the right way. Get or create system unit filter. So we have the value right here, so we do unit filter. Sorry for being distracted by my own thought, but you will see the end result soon. Collides with. There we go. This is how it should look, and then we do like that. So default is basically everything is 1, so that means it collides with everything and it belongs to everything. So if we just pull out the normal default, we get a new we get the copy of it, and then we set the collides with to only the unit tag, right? So this value is the proper one. You can see inside of this physics tag, it's this annoying thing, and then it spits out the value, which is the bit mask, and this converted to the bit mask, and then we put it into this unit filter, and then we can use this unit filter right here, where we were. Unit filter. So now, maybe it's the wrong one. Yes, it's the wrong one. I put it in the wrong system. There we go. And now we can do that. So we just we access the right system here and put it to this one instead. Unit filter. And now we actually have a good reason to see if we hit something. So there we go. And now we don't really care about where we hit anything, so we can actually remove both of these, because right now we have hit somebody with our double click, right? The double click rate is going in, and what I want to do now is that I want to see if there's a unit. If the hit object has the component type of unit, which means it's a unit, and then I want to somehow cleverly extract all of the relevant other tags, which flamebot and laserbot is the two tags I'm looking for, and I want to use those two tags to filter for a new selection, if that makes sense. One thing we need to fix here is that we need to make sure that we are not doing any of this if we are already right-clicked, because if we currently are right-clicking, we should not be able to double-click at the same time. I don't think this will ever happen. It's, you know, frame by frame. So, but this should probably be the way to do it. So the thing that comes out of here, it's entity. I'm pretty sure, because there's something else we can. There's a key also that you can use to find which collider it is, but the entity is the one. So if, and then has component unit hit info.entity, like that. Unit data was the proper one. So we can actually unity engine.debug. You can check this. I mean, this is not rocket science, obviously, what I've written so far. We don't need that one. Or maybe we do. But you know what? We should actually have it like this. When I'm programming more ECS than normal Unity code inside of one file, I always swap everything out. So I'm specifically targeting the Unity engine when I need it. Otherwise, it's always the ECS type things that I want to have. So now we should actually be able to double click on something, and we should get the entity index out of it. We can actually, yeah, let's just see what happens. I have some ideas how to do this, but I don't think we can do it as I thought from the beginning, but it's pretty fun to just look at that. Anyway, we can probably, let's do it like this. So that is not working. Let's have something Unity like that. Oh, I know why. I haven't put in the actual physics layers that remember this unit tag. First of all, unit physics tag, that's the proper way to so we have the Dragon system, and this is in the wrong place, I realize now. This should be on the selection UI. That's a much, no, it can be there. No, then it will be on one of each, and that's stupid. It can be in the selection UI. That's good enough. And then because we know we are accessing this stuff like very, very globally. This thing that we're doing right here is a very global type of thing. So we can just move that over to somewhere else, like here, and then use this one instead. That should do it. We're running out of time. Let's see if we can make it to the end, or if we can make it work. So now we got this unit physics tag here, so we can just select our unit. So now the raycast actually casts the rays in the proper way, and not to and trying to hit something. I think it was 0, 0 before. So let's see. Still nothing. What a strange thing. We should get something out of this. double clicked, is that always false or? Oh, I just realized this is the bane of coding. You make grand code, you make stuff that's looks really nice and then you forget to actually make it to the end. Wrong one. Let me just fetch the right one. That's the way it should be. So now we actually pick up double click when we are doing the double click. That's a good start, you know. I think this will probably spit out huge number of logs right now, so we won't even see if it works right now, but let's just make sure it spits out the logs I'm expecting. There we go, and we hit something. So that's good. It was not a huge amount of logs, it was just the necessary, so we can just back that out. Let's have that for now. So now we want to check out, now we want to select everybody who has that thing that who is the same type. So we can hard code this. I'm a little bit curious to see if we can dynamically code this so it selects, so it like construct the filter automatically for us. Probably not. And I'm thinking right now, and I'm realizing, yes, it's not possible actually. Because what I thought was maybe if I could do entities dot for each, or with all, and then have, you know, flamebot for each, blah, 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 that thing, and have this for all be filled in by whatever this already owns. But I'm realizing now that I don't think that's possible. I don't think you can construct this entity query dynamically on the fly. I'm gonna think about it for the next, but we can hard code this pretty easily actually. So we just do something like this. Sound effects. Apparently this, and then we have this selected. So now we're gonna do the same thing that we did. That's the wrong selected. Where is the selection code? You know, it should be here. Right click, dragging. No, it's not the selection code. The selection code is over here. I'm stupid. We should probably move the whole thing over here when I think about it. Yeah, we should move the whole thing over here because this is the movement code, not the selection code. I'm, as always, being a little bit stupid here. And then we should move whatever is needed with us. Right click. We can... Do we have the selection thing here? Yes, we have. So we can just do like this. Right click as value equals to false, and then we have the physics thing that we need, which is this thing. I'm just copying over a bunch of stuff that I know I will need. Fixes world. So we can raycast from the selection as well, and then create a new field. And I'm just letting the Visual Studio do all the work for me. I'm lazy like that. And then we have the unit filter, which we also move over to this system, maybe here. And then once again we set this to in another system. So now this is just everything about the selection is about that code is not here anymore, and we moved all of it over here. So now we actually have the all of the other code that is similar in the same place. And we can do it like this. Type selection, maybe something like that. And then we have unit data. That's more or less everything we need, actually. I don't think we need anything more when I think about it. With name. I am missing one of these. There we go. Oh, this is how we do it. So let's see here. Let's recap a little bit. We double clicked. We are not right clicking. We calculate our array. You can do like this. And then we cast our array and see if we hit anything with our double click. We see, is this a unit? If it is a unit, we just print it for fun. And then we create a new scheduled job. And in this job, we want to take everything that is the same unit type and set that to selected, and everything else set that to not selected. So then we can do variable is flamebot laser is like that, and then we do bam else. Well, I guess we can do it like this actually. So what we're gonna do is this will be pretty straightforward. Data dot selected is equals to if this guy entity yeah, that's it actually. Let's make the other one. Lazybot. Yes. It was cleaner than I thought it would be actually. So all the units is being pulled in, and then we like, is the original one a flamebot? Then we are selected if we also are a flamebot. And if the original was a laserbot, then we also are selected. And this will just be true or false if we are either one. I'm actually a little bit nervous about this code because it feels too easy. I mean, you need to add an if statement for each type you have, but it's still like very much cleaner than I thought for a while there. So now if we just let them stand still for a second, and then we press on the flamebot. There we go. No, never mind. What? God damn it. Well, we select everybody apparently. Laserbot, flameboy. Come on. Oh, there we go. We checked against the original one, which, you know, obviously was whatever we. Yeah, that was the reference one. I don't know if you can. I'm gonna low resolution. Why is that pressed? So now we'll see here. Okay. So let's double click on one. Hallelujah! Look at that. And there we have, well, I mean, they are moving like shit, but, you know, I'll take it. So now we have all of the laserbots here and all of the flamebots here. and we can double click on them and we select everyone. Then we can take a cross selection and do it like this. Then we can do a little bit of a cross selection again and take them out here. Yeah, they are really bad at working. Yeah, that was a little bit of false advertisement to call this void system, but one day we'll get there. I'm pretty happy with that. So just to take a look at it once more here, we find the one we double clicked on. We see which one of them is. Now if we have a character who for some reason has both of these tags on him, that would break the system more or less. Or no, that would not break the system, would just be undefined behavior, more, so to speak. And then if he is one of them, then we check if the other one is the same as well, and otherwise we check the lazybot. And then, you know, for all the entities you put in, you just put a new if statement, and this is, you know, paralleled work. It's very fast for the ECS system to find everybody who is a flamebot and select them. So this was one of the original thing that I had, like, this is fun thing to do with ECS, since ECS is so much filtering everywhere. So, I mean, you can probably do this in a very simple way in original Unity and code as well, but this is very optimized and is quite clean and simple, and it just shows the power of filtering different entities in DOTS. So I think that's 2 hours. That's what I have decided is a good time for me to keep my voice working. And the whiskey is empty, so, you know, can't run without the whiskey or something. If there isn't anything else, one person just entered. Sorry, we are ending the stream, but, you know, check out the VOD. I will timestamp everything, probably not today because I'm too tired after the stream to timestamp it, but I will timestamp it, and people can, you know, follow through and watch it in their own time. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and see you guys next time. I don't think I have a catchphrase yet. I have to think about a catchphrase. Yeah. Have a good one. Bye.